Devils 2021 NHL Draft Lottery. This is the State of the Fan Address. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Pucks and Pitchforks blog editor-in-chief and staring at the television screen, Nick Villano, streaming live on Facebook Live, Twitter Live, YouTube Live, and Twitch on the Primetime Radio Network, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere. iHeart app. Where else are we? Oh, we're on Amazon Music. We're everywhere. Spotify. And now at the Morristown Beard Crimson Podcast Library. Just got on today. Nick, you're watching the draft. I'm producing. Where are we now? Because you pulled me out of the TV.
Well, I know, we missed it. Your long intro made us. Yeah, we're fourth.
We're fourth?
Yeah, which isn't bad.
Fourth.
It's really not bad. Fourth isn't bad. Fourth, the worst case scenario was six, because six is where the top. There's a clear top five here, I think, and it's a weird top five because it's not great. It's not a great top five when you compare it to other years. Like when you compare it to last year, oof. Man, if we had four last year, we'd be golden. We'd be looking at Lucas Raymond or Jamie Drysdale or something like that. But this year, some interesting names. I think this takes us out for Power. I think we're done with Owen Power. We got Alex Chauvancy and Vinnie Parise coming on later. I'm going to ask them both about Owen Power because it's still a split room on Owen Power, and he might fall, but I think he doesn't fall past 3. So it's chalk, Sam. We don't have to worry about the Rangers picking high. We don't have to worry about the Flyers picking high. We don't have to worry about Vancouver picking Luke Hughes because they're 9th. We don't have to worry about any of this craziness. So here's the thing. Here's the good news about picking 4th, Sam. This is where you should pick Luke Hughes. So Luke Hughes is probably the 4th best player in this draft. Probably. Maybe 3rd, maybe, you can argue 2nd, but I think Bernier's and Power are better right now. Power's a little older, though. Luke Hughes is on the young side of this draft, and people are really going to like that. I mean, the top 3 is Buffalo, Anaheim, and Seattle, none of which are in our division. Our entire division didn't move up. Philadelphia, I guess, Buffalo was in our division, but they're not going to be in next year. Philly didn't move up. New York didn't move up. Those were the only ones who had a chance. So we avoided the worst case scenario. We avoided a below average scenario. We're slightly above average right now, Sam. And you know what? I'll take slightly above average. The 4th overall pick, like I said, perfect place to pick Luke Hughes. So you can make Jack happy. If we don't get Luke Hughes, then you don't have to worry about not making Jack happy because if he gets picked for us, there's nothing we can do about it. You could take a guy, if Bernier's falls, great. I know he's a center, but just you take the best player. There's a couple of other interesting guys there. I love Brandt Clark. He's just a different kind of defenseman, though. But I just think he's the most skilled of the defensemen that are out there. Again, I take Luke Hughes. If he's available, just because he's really good, and because of the Jack Hughes factor. You definitely had to take that into account. But I am absolutely fine. Oh, it looks like Anaheim. So Anaheim got 3rd. So Anaheim moved down a pick. And it looks like Seattle is going to get, it looks like, what is it, Seattle and Buffalo 1-2? I think that's what it looks like. Great for the Buffalo fans. This has been such a terrible stretch for them. And I could care less about this draft because
I think Seattle's going to get it. Less. I'll tell you the reason why I think Seattle is going to get it. Did they?
Buffalo got it.
So they didn't need Taylor Hall on their roster to get that first overall pick.
No, Taylor Hall, you have to go by the roster that Taylor Hall has at the beginning of the season. So Taylor Hall did it again. We're giving it to him. We got to give it to him, Sam. This is all he's got. He's in the second round. He's happy. So Omar says, Nick, if Fitz don't go with the best player available, he goes with the team needs. That's absolutely not true. That's not what he did last year. He could have taken Braden Schneider instead of Dawson Mercer, and that would have been an awful pick. Dawson Mercer's destroying things right now. He went with the best player available. That was the best player at 18, and he went with best player available. Ramona Rice says, we need defense. Sure, we also need wingers, and we need a backup goalie, and we need a lot of things, Ramona. We're a bad team. We're going to need a lot of things. There are good defensemen out there this year. There's Vince Dunn. I'm sure you heard about Seth Jones. I don't want Seth Jones unless he doesn't cost a lot at all. But there's I bet Red Wings fans are mad. Mike Rossi said to Omar, why? They weren't even close to the top. There's a lot going on, Sam. I'm trying to keep up with the comments.
Remember
Hughes holds over Rossi.
Remember the last time the Devils had the 4th overall pick? Adam Larson.
So who we trading Brant Clark for? For Patrick Laine? Is that what we're just going to trade him straight up for Patrick Laine? Is that what's going to happen? The trade is 1-for-1 again?
I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know. Sam. What's that?
No, you go.
No, I forgot. Go ahead.
You didn't want the 1st overall pick here. I think it's going to be a mistake. Somebody's going to make a mistake because there hasn't been enough scouting, and these GMs are going to talk themselves into players. They just are. That's what they do. The scouting is going to lean on the decision makers a little bit more because the scouts couldn't go anywhere. They can't bang on the table and say, hit the table and be like, I want this guy. I watched him play. He dominated the ice. You're not going to get the scouts like that. Now you're going to get, I think he's all right. He looks good on tape. And that's not going to convince people like Tom Fitzgerald or Dello and Kane or whoever's making those decisions. You're going to lean more on those decision makers this year because you don't have the ability to slam on a table. And these scouts aren't going to slam on the table this year because that's their job. Their job is on the line with these things. And if they slam on the table about somebody, they're not going to put their job on the line for a guy they didn't even get to talk to. You know what I mean? Like, these scouts go, they do their handiwork, they can make calls, like I said, they can watch tape, but it's just been a weird year. So I don't think this is where you want the number 1 overall pick. You want Ford's good here. You're going to get, something good here.
Yeah, but I just don't like. I don't know. Luke Hughes is a good player, but I don't want to pick Luke Hughes just because it's Jack's brother. But he is a good player, though. And I'm tired of marketing. I want defense. Defense. If the scouting of the New Jersey Devils says, hey, we really want Owen Power, or hey, we want this guy. Let it be a defenseman. And what about that first rounder, the extra first rounder that Tom Fitzgerald has? We don't know where it's going to be at this point. Could he use that as a tool, as the bait to move up from 4-3 or 4-2? You don't know. Or 4-1. But to get the first overall pick from Buffalo needs that pick. They need that in the worst way right now. Seattle wants to get things going. So I don't foresee. I don't foresee any moving up, but you never know. We've seen surprises.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Bernier's could go to Buffalo, and then Power goes to Seattle, and that'd be an interesting start for them. I really think that Buffalo's just got to figure it out. Dahlin's not asking to leave, and he's a former number one overall defenseman, but their former number one overall center is basically out the door. So I think they take Bernier's in the first overall.
Nick, we got a Twitter question. Just gonna send that to you right now. It's from @the_engine_ear. Any chance Owen Powers would drop to number 4, and is he the best choice? What are your thoughts, Nick?
Yeah, there's a chance. There is. It's
think
weird.
So?
This draft is weird. So I'm looking at Josh Bell. Josh Bell is a friend of the podcast. He writes for Sporting News Now. He has Luke Hughes number 1. He is Simone Edvinsson number 2. He is William Eklund number 3. William Eklund, the center of Alexander Holtz in Sweden, is Beniers number 4, Brant Clark number 5, and Owen Power number 6. This draft is not consensus in the least bit. Like, we tried to make an argument that Kakko could go before Hughes, even though we knew it was never going to happen. There was a legitimate argument that Heischer and Nolan Patrick. But then people come out of left field and say, well, some people wanted Elias Pettersson. No. There's zero chance that anybody was taking Pettersson first. Sorry. Make whatever argument you want to. It's all revisionist history because nobody was saying that during the draft. It's all of a sudden he comes out after his first year, his draft plus 1 year after his juniors, and he's really good. So like, I would have taken him first. No, shut up.
Well, let's go back to 2017 NHL draft. Okay, Colorado felt like they got screwed at number 4.
Yeah, they're doing fine. They're doing fine.
And Cal McCarr, defenseman, and like you said, they're doing fine. I like number 4 spot. See, at first I wasn't buying into it when you were saying, hey, 4 is great.
No, you want 4.
Yeah.
You want 4.
And
straight up.
And again, it all depends on the Devil scouting, and I'm hoping that they're not going to be 100% on that dirty word called analytics. They need defense in the worst way. They need size.
Do they need
defense?
They
need size. I think they do. You got to build from the goaltender out.
Okay, but let me ask you this.
What's that?
Did you see Kevin Ball at the end of the season? He looked good.
Yeah.
He looked good. He looked better than any of our
wingers.
You
can never get enough defensemen in your organization. You got to
So right now we have Tyson
because they. Okay.
You go.
Stockpile.
You go. You finish your thought.
No, because look, I don't care how many great D guys. You know why? Because when they become expendable and trade deadline and you're going for a playoff push, trust me, you'll be very pleased and happy that you drafted all these blue liners.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, they are valuable unless you have a player like Jack Hughes, a franchise player. Defensemen, you can never get enough of them. When they get hurt, you need to have interchangeable parts. Remember that term, that Lou term? Mm-hmm. Interchangeable parts? What the media used to say? I'm telling you, defense. It wins championships. And you have a lot of depth. You've got a lot of trade capital.
So So here's what I look at when I look at defense. Ty Smith, he's a legitimate top line defenseman. Is he a number one? I don't think so. I think he's a number 1B, but definitely a top line defenseman. You had Damon Severson and PK Subban, both second line right-handed defensemen, and really good ones at that. If Subban plays like he did last year and Severson plays like he did before the outbreak. Obviously, there's some inconsistencies with both of them, but when you get a second line right-handed defenseman that can play like them, great. You still got Will Butcher. I don't know what's going to happen with him. I think that they're going to beg and plead Seattle take him in the expansion draft just to kind of get a headache out of the way. I think he still has something there, but neither here nor there. Your prospects are Kevin Ball, Riley Walsh, Michael Vukovic, Nikita Hotok, Shakir Mukhamadullin, and there's one I'm missing. Well, and then you got Jonas Siegenthaler, who they got this year.
Riley Walsh, did you say that name?
Yeah, I said Walsh. And then you got Colton White and Josh Jacobs, who are kind of wild cards. They're kind of older. They're 24 and 23. Maybe they're a year older than that. I don't know when birthdays are, but they're higher picks. Josh Jacobs is a second round pick, so they're there. They who knows what can happen with them. We've seen defensemen develop late before. There's a lot of depth already. You need top line talent. And if Power and Hughes go in quick succession, then you have to decide whether you think Brandt Clark or Edvinsson is a top line defenseman. Because you have two really good centers there in Beniers and Eklund. So, and then I think they both could play on the wing in the NHL level. I'm at number 4. I'm throwing out the idea of Alstead, the goalie. I know we had a guy on a couple weeks ago who picked the goalie, but I don't see them picking the goalie at 4. Dylan Gunther,
I would trade down.
Interesting one too. Yeah, if you're going to take the goalie, trade down. Dylan Gunther is another one who's interesting. I like Kent Johnson, but at 4, that's just too high. That's too high for Johnson. He's got some flaws in his game that need to be fixed, and then he'll be really good. But he's fixed them, so I need him to fix them before I'm using number 4 overall. These 8 players, though, are really good. But Sam, this is a good trade down candidate draft. Like, let's say, I don't want to move too far down. I want to stay in that top 8. But if you can get, I don't know what it's worth this year. It's hard to tell. Like, am I really doing it for a second round pick this year? No. Because this draft still sucks. Like, overall, comparatively. The prospect caliber in this draft.
How does it compare to 2017? Because I remember in 2017 we said the same thing. Mm-hmm. The draft,
it's
after Patrick and Heischer, it's like all downhill. And you look at the next 3 picks, and they look pretty.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty good to me.
That bad. It wasn't the problem with 2017 is they said there was no franchise player, and they were wrong. There's probably 4. It just depends on where you consider Nico. But Makar's a franchise player. Patterson's a franchise player. And there's one person that's escaping me who I had in my head. Who was the next guy who got taken? Heiskanen's a franchise player.
Yeah, I think he was picked third overall, I believe.
Yeah. So it was 3rd was Heiskanen, 4th was Makar, 5th was Pettersson.
Yep.
But those
and
3
the worst out of all of them was Nolan Patrick. And worst of all,
and he played a full season this year, and he just wasn't good. And I mean, it's sad. He's had so many issues, but you knew about the issues. That's why Ray didn't take him. I think Ray would have taken him without the injury history, but he has it. It is what it is. And then you have Cody Glass is an interesting prospect over in Vegas. Nick Suzuki's a really good player. So there's
very
some interesting players there.
Very happy with the Nico Hischier pick because at the time period, if ever, hindsight's 2020, playing Monday morning quarterback, but looking back, Hischier, again, the intangibles that he brings to the Devils, the leadership, obviously he's captain now, and he's a two-way player. I mean, how he got onto the ice this past season, was simply remarkable. Getting hit in the face with a puck, you're dealing with COVID, the injury, and he could have mailed it in. I've said this before. He could have mailed it in, but he didn't. He has an obligation, responsibility to be there with his teammates, and and that speaks louder to me than statistics and all the fun stuff that we love about hockey.
But here's how I'll explain that draft. You had 4 franchise players, because I'll put Nico in there for now. Let's say he still is on a franchise player trajectory. After that, the next best player is probably Martin Nikas. I mean, Robert Thomas and Nick Suzuki are the best NHL players. Philip Schittle, Jake Edinger in Dallas. You look at the names, like Jason Robertson, the guy who went up against Kirill Kaprizov this year for Rookie of the Year. He was in that draft, but it took 3 years for him to get to the NHL. He was a second-round pick, so that's not terrible, but he already has the 9th best point share, and he's only played 1 season. That just shows you that simple math tells me that 21 first-round picks do not have the point shares that Jason Robertson has after 1 season. And number 9 on the list is Kyler Yamamoto, who's another player who really came on this year. He was good last year too, but he really came on this year. And then Shittle's the guy next to him, and Yoki Haru on Chicago. So these are still players that took a while to really get into the NHL. Like last year's draft, Sam, I expect 15 players in the NHL next year. After 1 year, after our COVID shortened year, you know what I mean? That's impressive. The year before, I'd have to look at the 20. Let's just look at 2018 as an example. 2018 was a pretty good draft. But again, it was the same thing. It was a clear top 4. You had Svechnikov, Dahlin, Tkachuk, and Quinn Hughes. And you got a bunch of players like Noah Dobson, Keandre Miller, Igor Sharangovich. It's actually he's at 10th in point share in the 2018 draft, which is wild because Ty Smith is 11th. But again, it's point share is a flawed stat. It's just the easiest way to do this because it's on Hockey Reference right now. But yeah, so it just shows you that there are 4 franchise players in every draft. It just is. It's just how birthdays work. And I think there's 4 franchise players here. But there's no number 1 overall, I know this is the guy. There's not. There's no, these are the top 5 that should go. There's 7 or 8 players who could be the best player in this draft. So picking at number 4, you have a really good shot to pick right. Picking number 1 overall, of course, you get the first pick, you get the first choice. In such a weird year, this is not the year I would want the number 1 overall pick.
Agreed. Well, social media is happening right now, Nick.
It's buzzing.
Yeah, it's buzzing. Yeah, why don't you talk to them?
We got full free agency mocks going out. Matt Jr. Nico's potential will be unleashed after training without injuries. He's extremely hard worker. Yeah, Matt, I'm not worried about Nico. The first injury came from training with inexperienced players. The second injury came because, it was an injury. He got COVID because the entire team got COVID. And the third injury came because a puck deflected in his face. It's fine. It's a lost season. It stinks, but he'll be fine. I think he's going to stay in that top 4. Omar, Nick, why I don't like Seth Jones? I don't know why you don't like Seth Jones. I know why I don't like Seth Jones. I think Seth Jones is a $6 million defenseman. Someone's going to pay him $9 million. And I think we know with our current $9 million defenseman, who's probably worth $5 million, what happens when you pay them $9 million. It doesn't work out well. The expectations are sky high. They never live up to them because they just don't have that. They don't have that skill or talent level or tenacity or integrity or whatever. I'm not saying that Seth Jones is missing any of those things. I'm saying that he doesn't come up to the level of a $9 million defenseman. So I don't want him. We could sign Makar to a 10-year deal, average annual value of 8.7. Well, 10-year deals don't exist. We could sign him to a 7-year deal, average annual value of $8.75 million. I think someone else would match that if you're talking about restricted free agency. I think somebody's going to – this is the weird year. This is the weird year, right? Because you got Quinn Hughes, restricted free agent. You got is Makar a restricted free agent this year? It's hard to tell. But it's not hard to tell. I think so. But if Makar – would take $8.75 million on a 7-year deal, and we had to. I'd have to look it up. The restricted free agency is always like a weird number, and you just have to double check it. But that's definitely 2 first-round picks at least, and that's our first-round picks. And I think it's a second and a third. I'll look it up when Sam brings Vinnie on. Sam's going to get Vinnie Parise, but I'd still do it. Cale Makar is generational. Matt Jr. told me that Jacobs is 25 years old. I thought that. That's what my gut said. But I thought, I was like, maybe he can't be that old. Yeah, he is 25 years old. That's not great. It's not what you want. But, again, we saw what Blake Coleman did later in life. A little different situation because he played college, but I still think that, 2 number 1s, a 2 and a 3. So what? He's 22, said Steve Tartas. I think I would do it. It's crazy, but I think I would do it. Give him as much as you can before it gets to 4 number 1s or 3 number 1s. 3 number 1s is still a lot. But for 2 number 1s, a 2 and a 3, I'm doing Cale Makar. You're back, Sam.
I'm back with our good old friend from Pucks and Pitchforks blog, the infamous Vinnie Parise. Vinnie, you're on with Sam and Nick. How are you doing, my friend?
Sam and Nick, first of all, it's been so long, and I've missed it very much. I like being introduced as a Pucks and Pitchforks guy. Like, that's just who I am. And not being able to do it for a little bit there kind of stung. It was awful. And, my guy Nick went to bat for me, and he hit a home run, so I'm back. Good to be back.
Listen, I found you out of the darkness, and I you turned yourself into what you are now, but I picked you out of the thorn bush. So Fanside needs to thank me rather than take you from me, but that's neither here nor there. Vinny, what I need to ask you first, are you going after Cale Makar in restricted free agency? I know we talk about it every year and it never happens, but this is the year to do it.
Yeah, I mean, Colorado, it's actually funny. Me and my brother were just talking about this earlier, how Colorado's sneaky could run into some issues over the next 2 or 3 years. And they look nice right now with McKinnon on that sweet deal for 2 more years after this one, but things are going to get a little expensive over there, especially with Bowen Byram in the fold if he turns to be what we think he can. Yeah, I mean, you make enemies when you offer sheet people, as they say, because it must be the case because it hasn't been done in going on 10 years. But, well, hasn't been successfully done in a very long time, I guess I should say. We all know the Montreal-Carolina thing. But, yeah, that's a tough question. You'd give up a lot to do so. Isn't it a first, a second, and a third for a player like Makar? I mean, that's a whole lot, but I think I would consider it for sure.
Well, it's 2 firsts, a second, and a third.
2, yeah, that's a steep price. I mean, chances are, if you get a guy like Makar, your first-round picks, let's say Hughes and Nico and, Bratt and Sharon Govich, all these guys really reach their true ceilings, and then you add a guy like Makar, you're hoping those first-round picks aren't, like, in the lottery or anything like that. So, I mean, it's a very tough decision. I understand why it doesn't happen very often.
I'm doing it, and I'm going to write about it. I'm going to write about it tomorrow. I'm going to write about, let's offer Sheet Makar. I'm going crazy. Let's go, baby. All right. We got to talk about the draft lottery, though. Your initial reactions to picking 4.
I'm not going to lie, guys. I like it. So this is a strange draft, as it's been mentioned a bunch of times. Like, obviously, I wanted to win and make funny videos of me drinking wine and stuff like that. That's all fun and games. But, like, at the end of the day, when we're truly just analyzing it, this draft, it's very unpredictable. I agree with you that there are at least 4 or 5, like, franchise-type players in every draft, and they come from maybe not even franchise, just core pieces. Is a good number, a good chance if you do your scouting correctly. But there's not that Jack Hughes or Connor McDavid or Shane Wright if you want to get into next year's lottery. Like,
yeah,
they could get a player at 4 that turns out to be the best player in the draft. I mean, we were just talking about Colorado. I mean, look at Cale Makar. We all love Nico. He's a franchise center. If Jack and him reach their ceiling, he's probably their number 2, just based on their styles. But, like, Colorado's not angry at that 4th pick. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think they would trade Cale Makar for Nico Hischier straight up. And I love Nico. I'm happy to have him on squad. But, yeah, with the 4th pick, you can't be as made fun of for some of your picks depending on how things go after. I guess that could be the case, like with Pavel Zacha. But the guys who go ahead of him are going to help make the Devils' decision. If Luke Hughes is available, I assume they would probably take him.
Yeah, I think Luke Hughes is going to be the pick if he's there. Like, absolutely, Luke Hughes will be the pick if he's there. Just because he's definitely a top 4 player in this draft. I think he's that good. But when you go to 1 or 2...
2018.
Say that again?
I was going to say they overthought it in 2018, too. Like, Quinn Hughes fell, I think it was 7. And if that draft were redone, he might go ahead of Rasmus Dahlin, or at least second. I mean, Svechnikov is awesome. He'd certainly go a little higher than he did. So,
yeah,
I don't think that overthinks Luke Hughes.
Yeah, I think you still take Dahlin. Dahlin technically has a better point share than Quinn Hughes, but he's played a lot more games. So, and point share is a flawed stat. Quinn Hughes obviously is coming off kind of a weird year, but I think it's still the top 3 is Hughes, Svechnikov, and Dahlin, and then Tkachuk or Brady Tkachuk is definitely number 4, and then it kind of falls off from there. Kind of like every draft, there's the top 4, those top 4 picks, and then you get a little bit of a drop off, and then every so often you get like a Braden Point who gets picked in the 3rd round. And he's a franchise player in the 3rd round, so it's it's a very strange process. But so who are you? So Luke Hughes is the pick you're thinking then?
Well, I mean, like I said, it all depends on what happens before them. My spicy take out of all this, I'm not sure Buffalo's going to take Owen Power, because
I don't think
my thought process is always they're going to lose Jack Eichel, right? Like, it's very hard to see him playing there for very long. And if they do keep him, they're going to want to get him some help. And to me, the greatest form of help would be another centerman to kind of take pressure off of him. If Buffalo takes Beniers, Matt Beniers, who's Owen Power's teammate at Michigan, I'm starting to sound like Pierre, saying where they're from. It seems like a good pick for Buffalo if their scouts believe he could turn into a good player.
So funny. I'm looking at a mock draft. It's an interesting mock draft. It's from a friend of the podcast, Josh Bell. He's got Eklund ahead of Beniers.
That's very interesting to me. You watched them play together with Desjardins a little bit, and he seems to be a very good playmaker.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think
he played with Holtz there, right?
Yeah, he did play with Holtz. They were on a line to start the season. They played really well. But this will get into my next topic. I don't think you can take Eklund first overall, even if you think he's better. I think if you're going center, you're going Beniers. So let me ask you this. Say the first three go Hughes, Edvinsson, Power. And then you have the choice between the two centers, Eklund and Beniers, and Brandt Clark. And then you can go off the board on Gunther. What are you doing there?
That's really tough. In a situation like that where it's kind of a crapshoot, I might go with Clark. Now, 3 of the top 5 or 6 consensus picks have a relation with a current Devil or Devils prospect, which I think is funny because you got Eklund with Holtz and then the Hughes brothers and, of course, Graham Clark, who was a great forward for Binghamton this year. And I might go off the board and take the defenseman there. But, I mean, it's a tough situation just because with Nico and Jack there, it's hard to, take a guy in the top 5 that might at best be your third-line center if Nico and Jack pan out the way we think they can. It was the same argument between Rossi and Holtz last draft. They went with Holtz because there was a more glaring need for a winger. So, and can Eklund play wing is another question they might be asking.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. But you also have that third-line center spot open. Now that you're going full bore with Pavel Zacha at the wing, and he finally lived up to his expectations on the wing, if he can't play wing, it's not the worst thing in the world.
No, and if, let's say he becomes a top 6 centerman, right? If Nico is your third-line center, kind of playing a similar role to what Ryan Nugent-Hopkins does in Edmonton, that's not necessarily the worst idea of all time either.
No, absolutely not. But you're still going defenseman. You want
yeah, I would like to see them take one of those defensemen, unless I really kind of like Beniers though. So if he falls to 4 and Hughes is gone, it would be hard for me not to take him either because he played so well at Michigan. It's very hard to be point per game in the NCAA, and that's exactly what he did.
Vinny, this is Sam. I think we have a little bit of technical difficulties. I'm trying to get Nick back on. Were you just talking about the NCAA?
Yeah, I was saying that it's very difficult to be a point-per-game hockey player there if you're a forward, and that's what Matt Beniers did this year with Michigan. And so it would be pretty difficult to pass up on a guy like that if he's available to you and the guy you want is gone.
Yeah, so Nick's having some technical difficulties, folks. I'm here with Vinnie Parise, a Pucks and Pitchforks blog, and talking NHL draft. Vinny, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm just waiting to see what's the verdict with Nick here. He picked a great time to have some technical difficulties, huh?
Yeah, well, his internet's back up. Just trying to get him up. Now, see, folks, this is what happens when you do things live. We're doing things live right now. And mistakes happen. Internet issues arise. And that's what happens when you live down in Florida like Nick Villano. All right, he's
Florida man.
we talk
uses
about
internet.
yeah, but Vinny, seriously, I am so happy. I am so happy that you're back with Pucks and Pitchforks blog, and it's always been a treat to have you on air. And you made a great point before. I was listening in about Buffalo. Why would they pick a D guy with the whole Jack Eichel situation? And I think that's a good point. And you know what? The question was posed before. Would Owen Power fall down to the Devil's lap? And after your explanation, I think it's actually possible with this draft. Number 4 could be number 1, depending upon how things happen. Would you agree?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Like, let's